This is fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction. He's going the outside of both of them. Maloney.
Oh, he's taken Anderson. Anderson's up to
Oh my God! Big crash. Oh my goodness, half the field's going to get rolled.
Second very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, there we go.
Oh no! That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my God!
God, what?
Good evening and welcome to round 2 of the Australian Turbo Touring Car iRacing series. Today we head to Brands Hatch for a short and sharp dash around the 1.9 kilometre Indy layout of this historic racetrack. The British Touring Car Championship has been heading here ever since 1958, so it's only fitting that we visit this on our UK swing, and we will of course return for a second time in a few rounds' time using the GP layout, which will also host British TCR's season finale. A lot of elevation change and steep gradients make up this circuit, coupled with on and off cambered corners. It's certainly a challenge to navigate. Fortunately, sub 50-second lap times in today's layout means drivers are going to get quite a few opportunities at each corner to get it right. And we'll see it all live right here on SimSpeed TV. My name is Ryan Jones, and of course I'm joined by Cameron Dance and also Jay Kennedy behind the scenes. And Cam, what more can you tell us about this road course short track?
Yeah, it's pretty simple, but very, very difficult to get right and put a lap together. Only a handful of corners, only 6 really, well, 7 if you count the front straight, because it's technically not a straight, but we'll let those arguments be. But anyway, yeah, it's a very, very short course, only 1.9 kilometers, so 2 kilometers in length. Clockwise, run to turn 1, 250 meters. It's a really short, really fun layout, but really difficult to get right and provides a lot of close racing. So yeah, really looking forward to it tonight and what sort of a show it can put on.
Most definitely another quirk because of its relative short distance. They are going to get 4 laps in qualifying here to set down a lap time. And as you can see, the track is a bit misty. It's a bit foggy out there. Visibility reduced just a little bit, just to wreak havoc on all the cameras that Jay set up. And no shopper cam tonight for obvious reasons. I do hear race 2 might be, yeah, that's why. That's why there's no shopper cam. Tim Grecoga is currently fastest, and he's looking to make himself even quicker now. He'll cross that start-finish straight with a 48.627. Knocks a few hundredths off his time. Quickest by about 4/10 at the moment.
Yeah, he's got pretty reasonable lead after his second lap so far, and yet to see about half the field see a representative lap, but for the time being, relatively short lap, like we mentioned, so normal racing standards, but nevertheless, it's pretty close at the moment. There's not really a lot of time in it between first to all the way down to about 13th, and it's only a second.
Yeah, that's because there's not much time to make up ground on this place, and well, Grecoga's already almost completing his 4th lap. We're running a ball with Cooper Webster, who just put himself up into 6th behind his Evolution Racing team teammate, making his way up into Druids now. This uphill run, you make a long sweeping right-handed hairpin, and then you go downhill into a roller coaster to get the car to the right, and try not to hit the grass on the outside and entry or exit, because you've got to use all and more of the available racetrack there. It's quite a tough little corner, that one.
Yeah, it certainly is. You sort of want to go in hard so you can get that corner, keep that corner speed up, but you also don't want to go in too quick, because if you end up running a little bit too wide, you end up either touching the grass or getting off track. So it's a really, really difficult corner to get right. But if you do get it right, it's so satisfying. And Webster come across the line, and he will put himself actually not any quicker. Oh no, goes up to P3. There we go.
Yep, goes P3 then, 48.673. Top 4 separated by 700ths of a second at the moment. Brett Cananzi, there you go. He's no, he's not. Nope, he's 3rd now. He was fastest. Tim Grecoga knocked him off, and then Ryan Jerrick put himself into 2nd. And Jerrick still got another attempt as well in his number 14 Eclipse SimSports machine with their new new sponsor, Pitbox.io. Putting branding on their car. And they're sat 2nd and 3rd at the moment, so pretty decent job for them.
Yes, certainly. Yeah. Top 3 lockout. Pretty good start for Eclipse Sim Sport
Oh, yeah.
tonight so far.
I forgot about Grecoga. Maurice Gardner then. What can he do for Fusion Sim Racing? 13th at the moment. He's currently on lap number 4. His final attempt then as he comes across the long curve. Does not to keep it down to the inside. He's just going to let the car take its natural course. A 49.198 doesn't find an improvement. Stays what is now 14th quickest as Cooper Webster elevates himself back up into 3rd place. Another attempt still to come from him.
Yes, certainly. Ryan Jerick managed to pip him to 2nd place for the time being, but on his final lap is Webster coming through the final corner. Is it going to be quicker? It'll probably be possibly quicker, although there's not a lot of time in it between himself and Tim Garkroger at the top of the timesheets as he comes across the line. It's going to be a 48.7, so not quicker.
Shame for him, so he'll start 3rd at best. Might be on the 2nd row of the grid. Let's see if anyone can improve from behind him. Watching here, Ryan Shooter, 27th at the moment in his Pace Syndicate machine, sponsored by Worm Paints. Lap 3 of 4, so still got another one up his sleeve. Track temperature at the moment is 27 degrees. It's 8:40 in the morning, so it's going to get a little bit hotter. Fortunately, it's a very short 10-minute race, so we won't have to deal with the track changing too much, and should stay reasonably grippy for them out there as he improves to 20th with a 49.267, an improvement then of a better part of over half a second.
Yeah, certainly. There's not a lot of time there at all. But also, just to mention that weather, it is actually quite a balmy morning over in Britain by the looks of it, with a 26-degree air temp and a bit of fog. It's not too common that that sort of thing would happen, but nevertheless, it's definitely going to make it interesting. It's interesting. He's made a massive moment on the final corner and ended up in pit entry doing all sorts of snake tiling.
That's going to put an end to his qualifying session. Then Jason Markowski, 16th, makes his way into quite a fast conclusion to the circuit through turns 5 and 6 here. You can almost take the left-hander flat. You've definitely got to slow down for the right. And then you sweep on to this main straight. And Markowski will put his MMS Esports machine 17th, 49.212 for him. And should be looking at a top 20 start. Thank you to the sponsors of the series as well. RSW Graphics, RMS Race Management Service, and Simfinity for their support of the series. Great to have them back on board. And thank you to RF Felberg for his continued work behind the scenes to keep this one running. And that's why we can see Brent Tucker come across the line in 30th, 49.986. He'll stay back there for now in that Spark car.
Yeah, Brant has one more lap up his sleeve, so we'll see if he can improve on this lap coming through Druids now. But nevertheless, so hoping to have a little bit better of a run at the moment. Hasn't had too good of a run in racing in this series, so be hoping to try and improve and get a result tonight.
He's the only driver left to do a lap as well. That's just the slight pause there. I was trying to see who else is on track, but it's just him. He's got the whole 1.9 kilometers to himself, and he will conclude his qualifying attempt with a 49.517. So goes up to 24th, finds an improvement there, which we'll be happy with. It was about 4 tenths per second he found, so that's a pretty handy improvement for him. Helps them out late. Everyone set their times. Let's go through and see how they will line up then for race number 1 of 2 here in Brands Hatch, race 2 of the series. Grecoga on pole, top 2, the front row occupied by Eclipse Sim Sports with Ryan Jerick starting 2nd. Cooper Webster, Brett Cananzi 3rd and 4th. Jake Maloney, Trans-Tasman Racing, alongside Mitch Martin in 6th. Wow, Eclipse Sim Sports really doing well on this one. What are they? 1st, 2nd, 4th, 6th, and 9th. Ethan Grigault 7th, Dave Roberts 8th. There's Michael Gippin 9th, and Thomas Hins 10th.
Just outside the top 10 on row 6, Cruz McVie and Hamish Clinton, followed by Martin Turner and Ryan Shooter. Row 7, row 8, Reese Gardner and Mitchell Wiley, Jason Markowski and Ashley Norman on row 9. And rounding out the top 20 will be Thomas Cool and Daniel Towell.
21st for this one's going to be Steve Curtis. Mia Ott starts 22nd alongside John Halloran and Brent Tucker behind, sorry. And then Matthew Spencer and Ross Dallin starting from 25th and 26th with Cameron Cousins and Benjamin Dahlia off row 14. Joshua Cavallaro, Ira Felberg off the 15th row of the grid and rounding out the field. So you see there the race conditions, estimated race distance, 13 laps, slightly longer than we would expect from a 10-minute race, but short lap times will aid us in that. Should help a few drivers try to pull off some moves. They'll have a couple laps to analyse where drivers are weak. It's going to be a tough track to pass on. It's quite high speed through the last section of the circuit, so tough to make a lunge there on the brakes. Turn 1 is a tough place to make an overtake. Turn 2, Druids, the uphill hairpin, going to be the only place where we could see some real overtaking, I suspect. But hey, they might surprise us. Going to be interesting no less. It's a sprint race. The action in this series has always been absolutely manic. And if you want to see where your favourite driver is in this field, you can go check out the live timing at simspeed.live. And you can stay up to date with where they are sitting and what lap times they're doing, how they're progressing. But shouldn't be too much strategy in this one, as we just await the red lights to come on and the green flag to get us underway. Final few drivers still gritting up here in the foggy. It's an eerie sight almost. All that fog descended over a field of 30 Audi TCR machines here in the Brands Hatch circuit, which we'll see some racing finally, despite all its events being cancelled in the real world as well. Of course, our thoughts go out to everyone affected by the current pandemic, but right now we can have fun a little bit and have some action, because this race is about to get underway. The red lights are on. A long wait for the drivers as the green flag flies and we get underway. That's a poor start there from Ryan Jerrick. And through the middle of all of them is Cooper Webster, who goes to the front. They're 3 wide behind them, trying to sort themselves out through the corner. But Cameron, what a start for Webster.
Yeah, certainly another great start. On contact between Maloney and I believe that was Tim Gottkriger as well at Druids. A bit of argy-bargy going on further back, but yeah, really solid start for Webster. Their perfect way to start is the second round so far, and someone else is around in the background, I believe. That
Mitchell Wiley.
is the car of Mitchell Wiley, so unfortunate for him, but everyone else seems to have managed to get their way through this first lap, and so some still trying to get some positions.
Krakoga's initial launch off the line didn't actually look that bad, but whatever reason, he lost a lot of momentum and dropped those 2 spots. Webster converted beautifully that ERT Panther Racefields machine, so he will lead lap 1. Jarek second, right where he started. And in the background, look at that move from Martin Turner, trying to squeeze up the inside of Mitch Martin and couldn't quite find a gap big enough to fit that car as he goes for another look into Druids. Gets a bit of an overlap and a bit of contact made between them. Hip check from Turner as he completes that move. Slides up into P number 11 then, as Mia Ott has found some trouble as well.
Yeah, Mia's ended up in the wall at Druids somehow. Not quite sure what's happened here. She's probably done it. She actually has done it all on her own and ended up actually being hit from behind as well on Reg. And Markowski has also made a mistake as well on the exit of Druids down at Graham Hill Bend, I believe. Possible contact between himself and Ryan Schutan. Yes, there was contact, so unfortunate for Jason there, and all the way down the further back of the field. Probably going to be a bit of a challenge to recover there, but nevertheless, he'll probably get on with it.
Live pictures getting dicey. Thomas Hins tried to thread the needle on Cruz McVie and Dave Roberts. Was no room for him there, as behind them into the fence went Martin Turner, all on his lonesome. He's going to drop an absolute ton of positions from that, as now Hins going to look to the inside of Cruz McVie just a little bit further up the track into turn 6. McVie's on the inside for turn 6 there, and will retain the spot. And now Thomas Hins is going to lose out to Mitch Martin on the offensive. Although, on the outside, fantastic run for that Ratu Racing car.
Yeah, Hinsey, a little bit of contact there with Cruz McVie, unfortunately, and just set him a little bit wide, but going to be able to hold off the car of Mitch Martin for the time being. But now he's got to try and find another way past Cruz McVie.
Right, shooter there. You can see pit lane getting a drive through for a early incident in this race. Is now again Hins up the inside. This time he completes the move, and McVie's going to lose another one.
Oh.
Mitch Martin, his Hins gets turned, and he hangs onto it. But he's up on the embankment there, out in the grass, going to lose some spots. McVie will lose out to Reese Gardner, who seems to be the beneficiary of all of this. Bit of contact between him and Mitch Martin, and very, very dicey stuff there. And oh, who's that? Around Hamish Cleland and Thomas Cool. Cool finds the tyre barrier on the outside, comes to a rest in that gravel trap.
Yeah, looked like a bit of nose-to-tail stuff going on there between Thomas Cool and Ashley Norman. Norman giving it Cool a bit of a punt in the rear, and then obviously having nowhere to go with Cleland in front of him. So Cool, obviously the worst one to come off from that, but nevertheless, bit of a racing sort of situation going on there.
Look at the lead of the race, though. Cooper Webster and Ryan Jarek are very much in a tussle here. Jarek just 0.3 of a second less now behind him as they sweep through turn 6. Tim Grecoga too shouldn't be counted out, only a second adrift of them. So this is a very tight here with just over 5 minutes still to go in this race, about 6 laps still to come. Webster might have to think soon about defending into Druids. He carries the brake for a long time through turn 1 there, but it seems to work for him. Maybe a little bit slow on the run between the corners, but at the moment, looking like Ryan Jarek might be the one with the pace. It was actually Jarek and Grecoga, both 0.2 of a second quicker, and Maloney than Cooper Webster.
Yes, so second, third, and fourth, obviously a little bit more pace than Cooper Webster at the moment, although this track is quite easy to defend at, so shouldn't think Webster should have too much of an issue defending from the car of Ryan Jarek, Gokrega, and Maloney when they get close by.
The replay up, Mitchell Wiley's run into another incident in his BRM SimSport car. Contact with the bow repair machine on his inside. Gets put into the fence. Bit of damage to his front end. And he's probably, and he has, had to tow back to pit lane. Brett Cananzi and Ethan Gregolt. Check out this battle here for 5th place.
Yes, certainly Cananzi trying to get on by Ethan Gregolt here, but just can't quite seem to get close enough on the entry to the corner, or around the mid corner, so he's having to sit on by, but he's got some very decent pace compared to Gregolt, slightly slower, but matching. Like he loses out on the exit a little bit.
Oh, what happened? Cameron's been swallowed up by a demon, and we apologise for that. Hopefully is released at some point. We get him back as that onboard, looking at the rear wing, looking at Jake Maloney's car ever closer to the battle vent, now between the top 4 for the lead of this race. And Cam, how you going over there with that microphone?
Yeah, we should be a bit better now.
There we go.
No longer possessed by a team, but anyway, yeah, the battle between Maloney and Kyle Krieger at the moment seems to have really closed up. Maloney with a lot of good pace, seems to be the quickest out of this top 4 at the moment by solid 10th or 2 between the likes of his competitors, and you can just see the run that he's got compared to the car of Gokrieger as well.
Just look behind him. Gregolt and Cananzi. Cananzi pushed him through turn 6 that time by showing the nose into turn 1. Is he close enough for a lunge? He's not. Gregolt's going to go deep on the brakes around the outside, swoops down in front of him, carries great speed through the corner, and actually opens up the gap and in that little battle as Cananzi almost gets him in the rear there through turn number 2. Just a few laps remaining then in this opening sprint race of the round. Still a 10-minute qualifying session and a 20-minute feature race to come after this, so stay tuned for that, because that race certainly provides just as much action as these sprint races do each and every round, as the lead gap still sits at about 3.5 tenths of a second side by side further back. That's a bit of a cleaner move from John Halloran, although Joshua Cavallaro is going to look to come back at him here.
Yeah, Cavallaro looking left, right, and centre, but just not able to find a way past the car of Halloran, but throws it up the inside of Halloran to make an excellent move, but then runs too deep under the brakes, and that's going to allow Halloran to have another go.
Cavallaro, a bit of damage to his front left as well, probably affecting the aero a little bit in his touring car. As he tucks in behind him, will get towed along by Halloran a little bit, but you can see there he's lost a fair chunk of time down that main straight. We go back then to the top half a dozen spots. Grakoga and Maloney both just dropping off a little bit from the back of Ryan Jerrick's machine. I think Maloney probably has the pace, but so tough to pass. Grakoga's proving a very effective roadblock at the moment for the TTR car behind, as Dave Roberts and Mitch Martin pretty close together as well. Mitch Martin trying to recover from his earlier mistake that he saw himself out in the weeds, as Thomas Hens looks for a move around the outside of turn one of Reese Gardner. Can he hold it there? Not quite. Gardner's got the inside, the preferred line for Druids. Will Hens look here for a crossover move? Certainly trying to set it up. He's got to watch out for Cruz McVee behind him too. Now he gets to his inside and not quite got the momentum to pull it off.
Yeah, didn't quite make it, but had a look up the inside. Maloney's trying his best to try and find a way past Gokwiger at the moment, but just can't quite seem to do it. Him and Gokwiger are actually slightly quicker than Cooper Webster, although that last time by Webster was a little bit quicker, but nevertheless, they've definitely got some good pace, and Jerrick quicker than Webster as well that last time by, and Webster running a little bit wide there at turn one as well.
Let's go back to Hens and Gardner again, because they were almost side by side that time into turn one. This time a better exit for Hens. Should be able to get to his inside for Druids. He's definitely got enough of an overlap if he can pull it up. Gardner hangs it out wide, tucks back in. Can't quite keep an overlap. Gets out into the grass as well, and Hens completes that move. Good overtake from him, and now mistake from Reese is going to put him under a lot of pressure from Cruz McVee. Wild move to his outside there. No contact between them, and on the wrong side of the track, going to lose out to Martin Turner as well now. Ooh, that's very tight between the pair of them. They just avoid contact. Let's go back to the front because the white flag is in the air.
Yeah, certainly. And Jerrick is all over the back end of Cooper Webster, and Maloney is all over the back end of Gokwiger at the moment. But I don't think anyone's really going to be able to get a move done here unless they really send one up the inside or try to hold it around the outside magically somehow with only 2 corners to go at this stage. And it's going to be a real last lap dive if anybody wants to make a move here at this final corner, and it doesn't look like anybody's going to get one.
No, can't quite pull it off. Still another race to come. No point throwing away a good points haul here in round one. Round two, race one even. Cooper Webster's going to take it out from Ryan Jerrick in a close fought race. Tim Grakoga Maloney finished third and fourth. Grigault will round out that top five. And in the end, 9/10 of a second, covering the top four side by side behind them as they come across the stripe. Who got that battle? Reese Gardner.
Did indeed.
Ooh. By 7/100 of a second over Cruz McVee.
I believe there's been an incident that's happened on the last lap of the last corner as well between Thalon and Halloran as well. A little bit of contact between the two of them, with like just bumper to bumper as well.
Yeah, and it gets rotated out into the dirt, and for a rubbing salt in the wound, catches the fence too, and you can see from a slightly different angle here. Halloran, yeah, just too aggressive, I think, into the back of him and rotates him around the front wheel characteristic of the car. Unfortunately, means he spins out a very awkward way and catches that fence. Let's go through then the full results from race number one. Thanks to RMS, RSW, and Simfinity. Cooper Webster, Ryan Jerrick, Grakoga Maloney, Grigault. That was your top five, as mentioned. Brett Kenanzi came home 6, Adam Michael Yip and Mitch Martin, making it 5 out of 10 in the top 10 for Eclipse Sim Sports. Dave Roberts and Thomas Hens rounded out that top 10 in 9th and 10th.
And just behind, the incredibly close finish between Reece Gardner for 11th and Cruz McPhee in 12th, followed by Martin Turner in 13th, Ashley Norman in 14th, and Daniel Towell 15th. 16th and 17th, Hamish Cleland and Steve Cortez, followed by Brant Tucker up from P24 to 18th. He'll be pretty happy with that. Benjamin Dahlia in 19th, followed by Jan Holleran rounding out the top 20.
Joshua Cavallaro finishing in 21st after starting for 29th. Mia Otthome in 22nd where she started. Thomas Cool, Jason Markowski both had a few issues, 23rd, 24th. Matthew Spencer, 25th, had a Cameron Cousins. And we saw Ross Stallen with that trouble in the final corner in 27th, head of Ira Fellberg, Ryan Shooter, and Mitchell Wiley rounding out your field. And that will round out our race one part of the coverage. We will go to a small break here on SimSpeed TV. When we come back, it's qualifying time for race number 2.
Assist to the front bumper, and he hits him again now. Rayon Fowler into the outside wall.
He's going to pass nearly 3 cars down that front straightaway, and he's going to get them all done with. What amazing.
Lee to the inside goes Logan Cloudman is going to touch in. Pit press sideways. What a save.
Look to the outside as Cronkite goes off. De Jong into second place.
Going for the switchback. Oh, pinpoint driving.
It's howling down to the inside.
I tried, there's contact though.
Slide left of the racetrack. Chris Benner drives it back down underneath, and he takes that second spot right back. Joker goes to Garrett Lowe.
Garrett Lowe should take victory with all that contact.
He's going to try and make the move around the outside the Parabolica. That's not going to work, but he's going to try and get the cut back here. Get the run out the Parabolica. That's beautifully done there. Michael Schumacher, there's a little bit of door banging as well.
GT Racing right now.
He's got traction. He's got everything outside of both of them. Maloney.
Oh, he's taking Anderson. Anderson's up to
Oh my God! Oh, big crash. Oh my goodness, half the field's going to get rolled.
Six very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, there we go. Oh no, that's massive. This is it. This is over. I can't believe this. Oh my God.
God, what?
Welcome back to Brands Hatch for the second race and the second qualifying session here for round 2 of the Australian Turbo Touring Car iRacing Series Season 2 as well. All the twos coming together for this one, second part of the broadcast as well. And with that, let's talk about the prize up for grabs for the drivers out there. There it is, starting from $8.99 at retail. You can win it for free as long as you compete in 2 of the first 4 rounds of the season. A random draw will be had at the conclusion of the 4th round, and someone will get lucky enough to win that 80-20 rig, and be a nice little addition to the man cave, wouldn't it? Or woman cave, or person cave. Help.
Yes, yeah, it certainly would. It's a very, very reasonable sort of rig, very actually reasonably priced as well. So yeah, wouldn't mind one myself, but I've already got a rig, so probably would end up just selling it anyway. But nevertheless, beautiful prize, and yeah, really cool to have some Affinity on board as a sponsor to put that sort of prize up.
And qualifying is just getting underway now here. Same as before, it's 4 laps over the course of 10 minutes that they have available to them, and then 20-minute race afterwards, which means they do have a compulsory pit stop, which means they need to put at least 2 tyres on their car, and due to the length of the stops, don't expect anyone to put anything other than 2 tyres on their car. No fuel will be required either, and has been very interesting over the course of Season 1 and so far in Season 2, the wildly different strategies we've seen in terms of that pit stop and what lap you do it. We've seen lap number 1, we've seen the final lap of the race. Some of those numbers aren't actually illegal, but we've seen them.
Yeah, it certainly has, and weirdly, we've heard some strange strategy calls as well. Some people have done rear tyres, some have done front, some have done opposite corners, some have done one side and not the other. It's been an interesting strategy calls that we've heard and seen and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, it'll be quite fascinating to see what happens here tonight at this Brands Hatch Indy circuit, and I imagine it'll possibly be similar to what we saw last season at Lime Rock Park. Obviously quite a short circuit, so somewhat similar traits and possibly strategy calls, but who knows.
Yeah, I was going to mention that, well, it's such a short track that the early stop doesn't seem like a particularly smart idea, because you're going to bury yourself in lap traffic, you would suspect, if you did it. The weather conditions, as you may have noticed, it's actually foggier, or potentially the same fog, so still got that to contend with for the director, Jay Kennedy. Track temp, though, is 41 degrees, and it is midday, so going to be a different track feel-wise, handling-wise for these drivers. A lot less grip out there for them to utilize, which may make a few more drivers make some mistakes. His currently fastest is Jake Maloney with a 49.145. How's that stack up to qualifying earlier on?
About a second slower to the previous qualifying session, and that track temp's about not quite 20 degrees, but it's not far off being that much hotter, so a lot more greasy, even though it would technically actually be a bit cooler with a sort of fog and no UV, but nevertheless, it's bit of a interesting one, obviously, because you sort of wouldn't expect it to be greasy like it is all hot, but it's one of those things that just makes it a little bit more interesting and a little bit more of a challenge for the drivers.
Don't bring science into this, Cameron. We don't do science here at SimSpeed. I mean, Jay can't even do math, so don't even start on science. Jay said correct. I'm safe. I'm not going to get fired. We're all good. Grakoga, a 48.8. Nope. Cooper Webster, 48.791. That's how quick the times change in qualifying, because now Ryan Jarek has actually gone faster. And I guarantee in about 20 seconds' time, someone else is going to go quicker again, Cameron.
Yeah, probably not even that long, to be honest. And
There you go.
Maloney.
732 is the new marker. 48.732. Top 5 is Maloney, Jarrett, Webster, Grakoga, and Grigalt, separated by 0.2 of a second. And Maloney has only done 3 laps. In fact, they're all on their final attempt, apart from Webster, who's just putting in his 3rd lap now, coming across the start-finish stripe. His Panther Race Fuel car will go and sit at the top with the 48.669, and then Maloney on his final attempt, and Ryan Jarek and Grakoga. Grakoga wasn't able to improve, so he stays 3rd. In fact, you can make that Ryan Jarek that stays 3rd without an improvement. Maloney doesn't find an improvement. Grakoga, still out on track, hasn't actually completed his final lap yet. Similar livery to Ryan Jarek, though. Comes through that final corner, and Maloney as well coming through there. Grakoga comes across the line with a 48.773, so puts himself 4th, stays 4th, in fact. And what can Maloney do there? Currently 2nd, stays 2nd. Cooper Webster has put down the gauntlet, 48.584, puts a bit of gap between himself and the field.
Yeah, certainly a very, very solid time from the Evolution Racing team driver there, but no one seems to really be going quicker by the looks of Markowski, still 14th with a 0.93, Hinsey up to P8 as well, so a few more drivers starting to get their final lap, but doesn't really seem like anybody's going to be beating that top 3 time anytime soon.
No, that is a very, very good lap from Cooper Webster. Our defending champion, our inaugural champion of this series, Thomas Hinds. What can he do as he comes across the line? He only manages a 49.019. You know that gut feeling when you check your stream and you realize that you're like 30 seconds behind, Cameron?
Yeah, I've had that before, don't worry. Just seen Markowski also come across the line, put it P14 and go slightly quicker as well.
There you go, and we're watching Ryan Tudor. I can say that much. I'm not behind anymore. 30 seconds into his lap. He's over halfway through in that number 4 Pace Syndicate machine, trying to get it rotated through the final corner, which is quite tricky with this car. It's a very long corner. You've got to get the power down early while almost continuing the corner all the way up until the main straight and the start-finish line. 49.987 for him. So Tudor will go up into 30th, or say 30th, so at the moment. That didn't count, that's why.
Yeah, possible off-track somewhere, probably, I imagine probably turn 3, which seems to be the easiest one to do it on, or possibly even turn 1 actually, I'm not quite, yeah, probably turn 3 I'd say, but yeah, doesn't seem like it would have been relatively obvious.
Yeah, some corners, some tracks are very, very harsh on those off tracks and those slowdowns, and that's why you got to do a fair bit of practice just to figure out where they are and avoid that scenario in the race as he completes another lap, and this time it's invalidated as well, so he will start this one from 30th place. I think everyone's done their lap already, and he's finished all 4 of his, so that brings us to an early conclusion here for qualifying, which is a shame. What about one of the people that joined late? No one else still on track, it looks like. It's just him. And Daniel Tao is one of those drivers. He's out on track, but I believe he too is completed all his laps. So let's go have a look at this starting grid. The top 22 drivers covered by 1 second, which is insanely close. And Cooper Webster leads the charge with a 48.584, even more close when you realise there's 2 tenths between first and second. Jake Maloney there off the outside of the front row. Ryan Jarek starts third with Tim Grakoga in fourth. He'll hope for a better start than he had from pole in race 1. Mitch Martin, Ethan Gregault lining up 5th and 6th. Brett Cananzi, Thomas Hins, row 4. Row 5 occupied by Reese Gardner and Martin Turner.
Just behind on row 6, Dave Roberts and Michael Yip, followed by Daniel Towell and Jason Markowski. Nothing in it between Michael Yip and Daniel Towell. Literally 1,000th of a second. So very close there. Then go back to Steve Cortez and Ashley Norman in 15th, 16th, 17th, and 18th. Chris McVie and Mia Ott, followed by Thomas Cooler and Mitch Wiley, rounding out the top 20.
21st list on is Matthew Spencer as John Halloran 22nd. Benjamin Dahlia, Brant Tucker. Behind them is Hamish Cleland and Ross Stallon. Field rounded out by Cameron Cousins, Ira Felberg, Joshua Cavallaro, and 30th place Ryan Tudor. The track temp has gone up to 42 degrees now, so slowly rising out there. Estimated race distance, well, it's double what we already did, 25 laps. And then in this 20-minute race, a pit stop at some stage, 2 tyres to be taken. Which tyres do you take remains to be seen. That's part of the strategy for these drivers as they grid up and get ready to get underway.
Yeah, the big question of what tyres you decide to take definitely is one of the big catalysts in this series. And yet it will be very, very fascinating to see who does what, like you said, whether people do fronts, corners, rears, who knows. It'll be... all the drivers are nearly gridded up and we're not too far away from going racing.
So someone's still playing with your microphone there, Cam. You sounded like someone managed to step about 50 feet away and then come back, all in the space of about a second and a half. Our director reckons left sides are the way to go when you come down to pit road, which means that's probably not the best option. So let's see if he's got it right, or if we'll see right sides. Don't think that's going to be right. Or rears or fronts. Who knows? Just under 20 seconds before we get underway. Who will have trouble? Will anyone have trouble getting their car off the line like we saw in race 1? It's incredibly easy to do in these front-wheel drive machines, as the red lights will slowly come on one by one. It's 5 red lights for these drivers. And now a green flag to get us underway. Great start from the top 2. Even from Webster and Maloney. Look at the run from Ethan Gregault in the background. Nowhere for him to go. Similarly for Mitch Martin on his inside. Almost making contact between them. Top 2 shriek out in front as they go side by side. As Ethan Gregault goes the long way round. Might just pull this off on Ryan Jarek. A bit of a hip check between them. And Gregault will complete that move. Someone, Ghost Lawnmower in the background too. Couldn't quite catch who that was.
Yeah, didn't quite see who that was either. I believe it might have been Ashley Norman, but nevertheless, it seems Thomason's also managed to make a position on Breckenhines to move into 7th, and they were going 3 wide just further back. Ashley Norman, Mia on Steve Cortez, and there's a little bit of banking and bumping going on.
So, end of lap 1 then. Into the pit lane come Tim Grakoga and Ryan Jarek, as well as Cananzi. So Eclipse Sim Sports playing their cards early to make this strategy work. Good news for them is because the field's so bunched up, they won't actually go into that lap traffic. You wouldn't think so anyway. Going to be actually a bit close. Some of the guys at the back of the field probably won't have that luxury. It's still very tight here for the minor placings. That's a car that's had a bit of issue And all in the background, who else went around there? Just caught that. That was Steve Curtis with the earlier issue there through Druids. And another car gets rotated through turn number 3. And that's the 11 car, Mitchell Wiley, who's had a pretty rough round so far.
Yeah, it hasn't been the best of rounds for Mitchell Wiley, ending up in that wall just before their turn 2. But Reese Gardner
Grakoga. Sorry, Cam. Grakoga and Kananzi still in pit lane. Ryan Jarek left a long time ago. What? They're there for such a long time. This is their race done, effectively. Reese Garner, Roberts, Howe, McVie, Ott, Fallon, Felberg, and Cheetah all down in pit lane behind them now as well. They're still there.
Yeah, that's really, really odd that they're actually still there. I don't quite know why that's happened. I wonder if they've... I don't think they have spent in the pit lane. It doesn't look like it anyway, but yeah, that's really, really strange.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what happened after the race when we can speak to Ryan Jarek if he finishes up the order. A long stop for Dave Roberts too. The awkward rejoin for the drivers at this track, as you can probably see there, is it spits you right back out onto the inside of the racing line. And Ryan Tudor now having to get out of the way of Ethan Grigault, and he's just going to hold up Mitch Martin, but at the same time Tudor's not really out of cycle that much, but he's going to do the courteous and jump on those brakes nice and early. Cooper Webster's lead doesn't exist. It's about 0.2 of a second back to Maloney. You can see the gap there.
Very, very close between Maloney and Webster at the moment. I do wonder if Maloney will possibly come in this time, but I know he doesn't. So both the leaders stay out for the time being, and they seem to be doing reasonable laps as well. So possibly going to be staying out for quite some time to get. And Greg Galt was actually quite a bit slower last time by compared to his teammate of Webster and Maloney as well, about 2 to 3 tenths that last time by.
Just on the move from Mitch Martin up the inside of Thomas Hiddens as well. That was textbook in turn 1. Completes that with relative ease then. Heading on to lap 5 of this race. And through turn 3. Look at Maloney on the back of Webster, pushing him down the back straight into turn 5. Just backed off before they got to the corner. Surely has the pace over him. Surely dives into pit road. Neither of them do so. In front of them, a laps car wheel. That's Ross Stallon and Webster under pressure. Drives it down the middle of the racetrack, but Maloney gets to his inside. Webster's leaving him just enough room, and Maloney sweeps through. But the crossover from Cooper Webster, great racing. He gets back to his inside for third line now for Druids. Takes it away. And now Maloney's going to try that same move on here, but Webster just balks it on the apex of the corner, prevents it from happening, claims the lead of the race back again, and Ethan Grigault lurks ever closer now in their rearview mirrors.
Yeah, certainly these two fighting is going to bring Greg Galt and even Mitch Martin into this fight even more, and I believe also the car of Jess Markowski nearly getting in the way there, possible contact, I believe, with Mia Ott just in front of them before, so fortunate for Mikowski, and I believe that the car of Reese Gardner has also had to come back down pit lane twice.
Cooper Webster just pitted as well, which you would have just seen in live pictures. And Markowski, I mean, the rejoin, yes, he was rejoining the track, but he squeezed Ethan Grigault almost onto the grass down that main straight. Might have irked the ire of Evolution Racing team a little bit with that little sequence of events. Let's see if Maloney responds straight away then to the pit stop from Cooper Webster, or if he hangs it out on track a little bit more. You can see further back they're still battling hard. This is Thomas Cool and Joshua Cavallaro. They've both pitted already. They're 16 seconds off. No, they haven't. They're just 16 seconds off the lead of the race. And Cavallaro, I think, losing a bit of time now.
Yeah, possibly getting held up by the car of Thomas Cool is Cavallaro, but Maloney and Grigault do not pit this time by, so still staying out. And Maloney, fastest lap of the race last time by, so a lot of pace in that TTR car at the moment, so probably going to be on for a win here, but lap traffic is starting to really pay dividends to some of these drivers.
The longer that he stays out, the more people he's going to come across that have pitted, that he's got to navigate. When he runs the risk too, with drivers coming out of pit lane right into the side of him in turn 1. So it's not all smooth sailing here for the Trans-Tasman driver. Cooper Webster's back in 11th. It's just making his way through turn 1 now as Maloney dives down onto pit road, gets it slowed up beautifully before the speed limit. Trundles down at a measly 71 kilometers an hour. Slowly glides it down to that pit box. John Haller and Steve Curtis making no move to come down to pit lane just yet. They're going to continue their battle out on track. What's now P4 and 5.
Yeah, the battle between Steve Cortez and Thomas Hull really starting to heat up now. Oh, Halloran, sorry. Really starting to heat up, but 7 cars yet to pit. And Wiley's also in the gravel trap for turn 1 as well.
Really not having a great day, is he? Cooper Webster has cleaned up Jake Maloney by a country mile. So has Ryan Jerrick. So, interesting. It was a long stop for Maloney. It was 3 seconds longer than Cooper Webster's. So that's why that gap's occurred. And Maloney's got some work to do now then. He's got to get by Ryan Jerrick as well. Who's quicker than Cooper Webster, I should mention.
Yeah, Maloney's lost out quite a bit to Jerrick and Webster at this point. Big gap as well back to those two in front of him. But yeah, that's really strange that he's that much slower in the pit stop. Possible weird angle, possibly a bit slower on the exit or entry. Not quite sure, but yeah, he's got a lot to try and catch up to the two ahead of him. But with slightly newer tyres, he shouldn't have too much of an issue. He did set the fastest lap of the race not too long ago, so he's clearly got enough pace to possibly catch up.
Ryan Jerrick was 3 tenths quicker than Cooper Webster last time. By the lap before, he was about 8 tenths quicker than him, so he's reeling him in. And that battle is going to occur pretty quickly. Daniel Towle and Chris McVie have had an issue. Both of them are in the gravel trap in slightly innocuous places, and Chris McVie, interesting looking rear end to his machine. This happened at turn 1. I knew it was turn 1. I think I said turn 3 though. And let's see then. Oh, he's clipped the grass and taken Towle with him. And Towle, that is about as unfortunate as it gets.
Yeah, really, really unfortunate there for Towle. Just nothing really about innocent bystander in that all. And Cruz McVie's rear wheel is absolutely destroyed. So same with the bootlet as well. It's looking a bit of a sight for sore eyes, that car of the Race on Oz driver. So unfortunate there. So, but nevertheless, he'll be trying to get some repairs done and see if he can recover anything.
Mitch Martin's brought his car down to pit lane as well. See where he cycles out in all of this. Will he play a joker into this deck of cards as Webster? His lead sits at a less comfortable margin than it was. He's brought his lap times down to the level of Ryan Jerrick, though last time by at least, so it's a little bit more comfortable at least than it was looking. This time by, how's it sit as Mitch Martin comes out behind them? 48.8 for Jerrick, 48.9 for Webster. Closes by a little bit. Mitch Martin's going to come out in front of Maloney. Maloney's dropped an absolute ton, hasn't he, in this pit stop phase?
He's really not had the greatest run in the last few laps. Really lacking a lot of pace. He's been quite a bit slower than his competitors who've been doing 48s, whereas he's been in the 50s and 49s. So not quite sure what's happening there, whether he's just getting cut up by traffic in the wrong spots or whether he's possibly struggling with cold tyres or something. But yeah, really seems to be lacking some pace at the moment after this pit stop phase.
Thomas Hinds, through all of this, is looking pretty good, because he now, as you can see from on board, is very close to the back of Maloney, and you'd probably say within half a shout of making the move in the not too distant future. 9 minutes still to go on this race, about 8 or 9 laps of racing. There's more cars down on pit road. That's Ethan Grigol. Grigol was leading this race. He could come out a lot closer to Webster than Martin did. 1 car left to pit. Steve Curtis leads his first laps of the Australian Turbo Touring Car iRacing Series. Unfortunately, no bonus points for it, but good bragging, right? To say led a lap. Cooper Webster then comes out of pit lane, comes by pit lane just in front of Grigalt, who rejoins right behind Ryan Jarrett. 48.8 plays a 48.7. Webster versus Jarrett, so still closing, but not by much.
Yeah, certainly not a lot in it between these drivers to try and close this gap. They've got about 8 minutes to try and get their moves done to try and gain as many positions as they possibly can. But yeah, really decent stop there by Grigalt to end up coming out behind the car of Ryan Jarrett. But Maloney's all over the back end of Mitch Martin here to possibly try and set the move up to get back inside the top 5. He's looking up the inside, but not quite enough room. But Mitch Martin really struggling to hold it around the outside, and Maloney's going to have the inside overlap heading it down the front straight and into turn 1. I'd say Maloney's probably going to have the move done here into turn 1, but it doesn't look like he will be in with slotting behind.
Yeah, on that outside, Martin's had a much better run onto the corner. Good job from the laps car to stay out of the way there, coming out of pit lane. Maloney sat back, waited for Druids for turn 3, 2 even, and now we'll try again, but can't quite keep the car there. And now look out, but it's a 3-car joint because Thomas Hins has joined the action on the back of Maloney. And these 3 are 3 drivers that always put on a very interesting battle when they are out there on track, trying to make moves as Maloney goes for a lunge at the last corner, forces Martin to take a bit of a wider line to avoid the contact, and a bit of a better run for Maloney this time down the straight. He's going to get a bit of the draft off that car in front. Will he go and pull to the inside for turn 1? He will. He's going to send it in on the brakes, chattering the rears a little bit, up onto the curb, bounces off, and loses out on the opportunity. Thomas Hins could have had a look, decided against it. And Maloney here looking a little bit impatient now.
Yeah, he's starting to run out of time and laps as Maloney. There's not long to go in this race, only about 8.5 laps at this point for the leaders, so he's really got to start trying to make the move. He can't quite seem to get the exit out of the final corner and into turn 1, but with Hinsey behind him, he should have a bit more pressure and should start to try and get a bit more of a hurry on to get past Mitch Martin, but just doesn't quite seem to be getting the exits.
No, he's doing a very good job where he needs to, is Mitch Martin, which is on the exits of the corner. The only real overtaking opportunity is here at turn 2. And he's strong coming out of turn 6 and 1, so he's doing a very good job right now. Maybe a little bit weak through here, unless Maloney's catching him, but you can't really pass him to turn 5 unless you get 2 drivers that are very, very cooperative to make it happen, or a very good run and move, which Maloney's not close enough for it yet.
Yeah, he certainly isn't. He's just near or thereabouts, but not quite where he needs to be, unfortunately. So he's just going to keep hounding the back end of that Eclipse Sim Sports car of Mitch Martin for the time being. And 48.8 that last time by, so matching the lap times of the leaders actually that last time by, slightly slower than the likes of Cooper Webster and Ryan Jarrett, but was on par with Ethan Grigalt, so they've clearly got decent pace, but just need to sort of work their way out and sort of cooperate with each other and see if Maloney can get on by.
Martin's actually eking it out a bit now, looking a bit more comfortable over Ryan Jarrett, over Maloney, sorry, and Ryan Jarrett up in second has stopped gaining on Cooper Webster. Webster's actually putting the gap back out in his favour now, so basically Cooper Webster, he's just got to keep his car nice and smooth and he should be fine. Ryan Jarrett's a bit of no man's land at the moment, Grigalt similarly so. The battle really is between Martin, Maloney and Hins. Martin is doing a good job now to start to open it up.
Yeah, Garkrugger actually just went a lap down apparently, so really hasn't been that good of a race for him, unfortunately, after having quite a long stop compared to the leaders, and his teammate Brett Cananzi isn't actually too far away from doing the same either, so not been a great night overall for the Eclipse guys, but nevertheless they'll be still trying to score as many points as they possibly can towards that Constructors title. But Maloney still not quite there, and has actually dropped back from Mitch Martin as well, and Hindsey's starting to close in on Maloney now.
Yeah, Hin's looking pretty good here, up into 6th from where he started in 8th. And doing a very good job, Cruz McVie as well. In the meantime, has served a drive-through for his part in the incident with Daniel Towell, and going to be not having a particularly fun race at the moment. The damage to the front and the rear of that car, as behind him, Jason Markowski and Hamish Cleland duking it out for 10th. Cleland looking up the inside. It wasn't close enough, just showing the nose, splitting the mirrors of that MMSE sports car. Trying to put off Markowski to generate a mistake somewhere and potentially a move where he can get by.
Yeah, he'll be pushing really hard to try and get a move done on Markowski. And I believe someone's just copped a penalty. Possibly Markowski by the sounds of it.
That'll be a shame if that's true, because that will put a disappointing full stop to the chapter in this battle. Look at Gregol. He's found a lot of time and is now just 9/10 of a second behind Jarek, who's starting to drop off.
Yeah, Jarek's dropped quite a bit of time in the last lap or so, which is really interesting. I'm not quite sure what's happened there, whether it's like traffic or just possible driving errors. Doesn't look like traffic, so possible just driving errors and starting to oversteer, possibly. Yeah, so Jarek obviously also pitting quite a lot earlier than Gregol as well, so possibly starting to see a bit of tyre wear on Jarek's car starting to come into effect, and compared to the likes of Gregol, who only put about 9 laps ago, has got a lot fresher rubber, so the likes of that fresher rubber really starting to pay dividends to Gregol's charge here to try and get into second, and it's really starting to show because of how close he is.
Indeed, and I think Jarek's going to have to start to get on the defence here as Gregol gets closer and closer in his mirror. Close enough? No, not quite there at turn 1. 2 laps to go in this race. A little bit wide for Jarek. This might be the move from Ethan Gregol. He shows the nose, but Jarek defends. And Gregol has to think of another way by. It's not going to happen there. Not on that lap at least anyway. That might be his last opportunity for this lap. Might come down into the final lap of the race as he gets all the way up to his rear bumper. Through turn 3, pulls to his left-hand side. Wrong side of the track, though, for the final corner. Contact! Jarek goes for a slide. Shortcuts through the grass, rejoins, and Gregol will take that spot away. Jarek will be rather displeased about that. And Mitchell Wiley, who might go by, is a lap down, though. Mitch Martin back in 4th. Will be too far back to capitalise, it looks like, as the final lap is now, and the lead is 5 seconds for Cooper Webster. Has worked out a treat for him.
Yeah, it certainly has. Webster's put on an absolutely fantastic display, dominant performance in a clean sweep all night long. Pole in both races and both race wins, so definitely cannot complain about that. I actually didn't get pole in the first race, my mistake, but nevertheless, both race wins, so maximum points there for Webster, but nevertheless, there'll be plenty of talk about several other sorts of moments and it'll be an ERT 1-2 as well as Webster comes across the line.
And a fantastic round out for Evolution Racing Team. Fantastic night for Cooper Webster, who cleans up the round. Ryan Jarek will take 3rd from Mitch Martin, and Maloney, as the rest of the drivers scrap and come across the line. No crazy tight battles like we had in race 1 to finish it off across the line. Thomas Cool, Ryan Shooter, 12th and 13th. They're going to finish in that order. Shooter's done a good job, up from 30th to 13th. Fantastic drive from him, up 17 spots.
Yeah, certainly very, very good drive to move up 13 spots, and very, very good driving actually from a number of drivers, the likes of Hamish Cleland as well, to go from 25th to 10th, and a few others. But nevertheless, really good dominant performance by ERT once again. So again, the team to beat by the looks of it.
Yep, and as they so often are, let's take a look at the full results here from race 2 of round 2 of season 2 of the Australian Turbo Touring Car Championship. Martin from Webster from Grigault first and second. Then came Jarek, then Martin from Maloney running out the top 5. Thomas Hens came home 6th ahead of Reese Gardner in 7th. Martin Turner, Mia Ott 8th and 9th. And Hamish Cleland up inside of the top 10.
Just outside the top 10, Steve Cortez and Thomas Cole, followed by Ryan Shooter and Ashley Norman. Jason Markowski in 15th, 16th. Brent Tucker be pretty wrapped with that result tonight. Matthew Spencer in 17th, 18th, Benjamin Dahlia, 19th, Brett Cananzi, and Tom Goldkrieger rounding out the top 20 after their unfortunate longer pit stops, which we're still not quite sure what happened. It was spinning it, and they've cut the penalty actually by the sounds of it, so that was the reason for the penalty.
And 21st was Mitchell Wiley. These drivers finishing a lap down. Dave Roberts, Cameron Cousins, John Halloran, Michael Yip, Cruz McVie 2 laps down, and Cavallaro, Daniel Towell, Lara Felberg, and Ross Stallon all running into various issues throughout the race today. And it was a very interesting race we had because it was a 40-second hold for Tim Grakoga for cutting that pit entry, which is why he got it. And he was coming in front of, who was it? It was Mitch Martin, was it? That he came into pit. It was his teammate. Yeah. It wasn't Jarek, Director Kennedy. Jarek finished second. But yeah, would have followed him through and cut that entry. And unfortunate scenario there. I guess it's an easy thing to do. Yeah, it was Brett Cananzi that had that issue. Is just waiting to see if anyone's going to jump in for some interviews. Don't think Cam's actually with us anymore either. There we go. There's Cooper Webster. Let's talk to our race winner from race 1 and race 2 here in round 2. Great job today, Cooper.
Thank you. Yeah, it was a good night. The race 1, I didn't do so well in the qualifying, but the start was wicked. I got off the line, and then this track's so important to get that good start, so because there's nowhere to pass, and got that one in that first race, and then the second one got a clean getaway, and then just dodged back markers for the rest of the race.
Yeah, it looked like it was very hard to pass. We expected that coming into the race, being such the layout it is and whatnot. I mean, we don't run this circuit too often, do we, really? The Brands Hatch Indy. It's often always Brands Hatch GP. Do you like the Indy circuit? Do you want to see more racing here, or are you a fan of the F1 layout, the GP one?
No, I like these short tracks. It reminds me of when I race go-karts, all the short lap times. But yeah, in those races when Maloney was getting close to me, I wasn't too worried because it's so hard to pass. You can just put your car in the right spot, and it's extremely difficult for them to get by. But yeah, I reckon this is a good layout. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm inclined to agree with you there on that one. In terms of the result overall for you, for the team, with Ethan coming home second in race 2, what does it do for your aspirations, championship-wise, both individually and team?
Yeah, exactly. This is great for my championship points. I was just hoping to that the last round I was equal first place. I was just trying to aim to keep that sort of run going, but the same with Ethan to come home with second. That second race is just really good for both of us. Yeah.
Definitely a good result for you, and the good news for you is we're coming back to Brands Hatch in a few rounds' time. So using the GP layout, but I think you might be the favourite for that one if you can carry the form over to that. So we wish you luck in a few rounds' time for Brands Hatch and for the rest of the season at that as well. Before we let you go, who are the sponsors that get it done and the people you want to thank?
Yeah, I'd just like to thank Panther Race Fuels, MIR Race Lines, and all the boys in ART.
Alrighty, well, thank you very much, Cooper. We hope to talk to you next time.
Thank you.
was your race winner, Cooper Webster. Now, the real question is, Cameron Dance back?
Yes, I am actually. So I can do second for you actually. And with that said, Ethan Grigot is in the box. Well, second place for you in race 2, Ethan. And yeah, you can't be too unhappy with that.
Yeah, not too bad. Still missing out a bit of pace there in qualifying, and don't quite have the race pace in the race that we need so far. But yeah, not too bad of a night. 5th in the first race, 2nd in the second. So really can't complain.
Yeah, you certainly can't. Now, it was a rather strange night tonight with a bit of fog hanging around and a bit of strange track temp, obviously being hotter in the second one and a little bit cooler in the first one. Were you sort of concerned at all in regards to track temp possibly having any issue with tyre wear at all, or did you sort of just run by the wind and sort of go with the flow?
Yeah, to be honest, didn't really do all that much testing, but yeah, the first race, the track temp was obviously in the low 20s, and then the second one was in 40. So, but to be honest, I didn't really notice too much of a difference. There was a slight lap time loss in the second race, but the car actually felt better for me. I felt like I had a bit more pace in the second race. So yeah, I'll have to look into the setup, why it's running better in hot weather instead of cool. So.
Well, fair enough. Well, with Donington on next up on the calendar, how much are you looking forward to? Is it a stronger or a weaker track for you?
I've always gone quite well in the Donington in the V8 Supercar. So yeah, if I get my head around the fact that this car just constantly understeers when you put the foot down, then yeah, we might go all right there. But a bit of testing to do.
Well, certainly, Bill. Before we let you go, just any shouts, thanks to sponsors and all that sort of stuff, we'll let you do.
I'd just like to thank our new sponsors, Panther Race Fuels, MIR Raceline, and Logitech G for their continued.
Well, there you go, Ryan. Second place, Ethan Grigot, and don't believe we have third place hanging around at all.
Nope, so that'll wrap us up then for round 2 of the season. If you enjoyed it, make sure you come back at the same time next week for more action brought to you by RMS Race Management Service, RSW Graphics, and Simfinity, who are of course putting up that lovely rig up for grabs. If you want to be able to be eligible for that, and you you go to the Facebook page for the series and fill out the registration form, come along and turn out to the next 2 races of the season, and you will be eligible as long as you complete 2 of the first 4, and that's when the draw will be drawn. So make sure you get involved if you're keen on that. But in terms of other series we've got coming up, it's a busy week for us at SimSpeed. 8 more broadcasts to go. We're counting it down, and poor old Jay Kennedy is going to be very busy behind the scenes. Tomorrow night, dirt track racing with the ODSE 360 series. Then we've got a double header on Friday with VRS GT Sprint and Friday Night Trucks. And then, of course, NIS on Saturday, Scops on Sunday. So, going to be a massive weekend for us. Make sure you like and subscribe to the channel if you want to stay up to date with all of that. But for tonight, from myself, Ryan Jones, from Cameron Dance alongside me, and Jay Kennedy behind the scenes, thank you so much for tuning in, and we will see you next time.
This is fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's going in the outside of both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson. Anderson's up to
Oh my god! Oh, big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled!
Second very close. These guys, I want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, there we go. Oh no, that's massive. This is it. This is over. I can't believe this. Oh my god.
God, what?